in breaking down the game, I think, let me put it, I think I may need to explain. This is the game. If you look at it, this is national cake. National cake is in a box. And I think I may need to open it just so that you get to realize. The game has a very simple forward structure. What it does is that, like I said, it gives you boxes of the histories we were talking about. And all of them are in what you may call a board. And if you look at the board, what you will see is that you have the black lane. The black lane is where you start from 1800 and then you go all the way this way. And then you have the entry point, which you call 1914. That is our legal time we said Nigeria began the amalgamation. And so these are the events, chosen and selected events. The more you do this, the more you understand why we did this. The selected events, you pick it, follow it through, and then you run your way through all through this point. Immediately you get to this point, then you have won. I will explain some of the tools and the components that make up the game. But in the most simplest form, the whole of this area is about the past. This specific area is about the future. Like I said, 2025 to 2075. Let me explain a little bit. This is what we call the spin part. The spin part is what you actually use to start the game. When you spin, you're going to have any of the numbers here. You have 1914, you have 1960, then you have 1 to 6. And how it works is that immediately you spin, if you have 1914, you come in through the gate here. And how do you come in? You come in with this. This is called a race counter. This is what you place, and then you run and you use to count. So when you spin with your spin part and you have 1914, you place your race here, and then other persons can also play. But if it wasn't 1914, what you got was 1960, then you need to come to the Independence Day. But if you didn't get any of these two pivotal years, then you got maybe a 5 or a 6, then you start with what we call the historical trek. But as you trek and you continue, if you have 1914, you continue here. If you have 1960, then you may need to come back here. Then we have what we call the bridge token. Now, this bridge token comes in two colors. You have the white, and then also you have the green. After you've spin the first time and you had 1914, anytime you spin 1914, you get a token. Anytime you spin 1960, you're going to get a green token. So when you get to this point, to this bridge, and you need to cross the bridge, then it simply means that you need to pay one of the tokens to cross the bridge. If you're crossing the smaller bridge, you need 2 white tokens. So that means 2 1914 to cross. If you're crossing this, the red bridge, then you need 3 green tokens to cross it. But if you're crossing the orange, then you need 4 white tokens, 4 green tokens for you to be able to cross. And the reason why this bridge is very important is that in the process of this race, there are places that if you land on, you may need to go back and start afresh. One of them is during the Civil War. For instance, if you land on the Civil War, you may need to drop back, go back to 2029. And the reason for us is that we are hoping that since this is structured to be transformative and a learning curve, we want you to be able to ask questions such as what happened in 1966, what happened in 1967. That will drive you to research more and get to find out what happened. Because if it is so important enough for you to lose a point in your game, it means it's so important enough in national development. It is so important enough in your relationship with your neighbors, with people from the south, from people from the east, and the rest of them. The whole idea is to drive you to find out more about Nigeria. Another key point you may need to understand about national cake that is very important is what we call the sports. If in the process of movement you reach any of these 4 important spots, one of them is what we call the share and commit spot. At the share and commit spot, if you get here, you need to share your most painful experience about Nigeria. Like most people will say, Nigeria happened to me. Now, what did Nigeria do to you? And then ability to share, it gives you an opportunity. It's like you're sharing with friends and family your greatest pain, so that others will get to know. One of our challenges as a country is that people don't have opportunity to share their pain. And that's why you see sometimes people come on Facebook and just insult and abuse people. But here you're sharing with people you're playing with. So they empathize with you, they listen with you, and sometimes connect with your pain. However, when you're done sharing, you must also make a commitment to make sure that you are not also a source of pain to another Nigeria. That is what we're hoping to achieve. At the point you get to the second spot called the forgiveness spot, we believe that one of the challenges of Nigeria is that we've gone through turbulent times. We've gone through painful experience, but we don't have the audacity and the courage to sit with one another and ask each other for forgiveness or gift forgiveness. And for many who may know, Rwanda actually is where it is today because Rwanda adopted the forgiveness strategy. The Tutsi and the Hutsi war that nearly, eradicated Rwanda from the face of the map was so bad. But how they were able to overcome it is that they were able to sit with each other and apologize where it was necessary. Because forgiveness can bring peace. Forgiveness will bring reconnection. And that is why when we get to this point, we expect you to forgive Nigeria in any way Nigeria has wronged you. And also someone else can ask you for forgiveness. It's also your opportunity to reconnect. Then you have what we call the apology spot. Oftentimes, people ask for forgiveness or people feel wrong. But all that is required is just apology to mend fences. And so we are hoping on behalf of your tribe, on behalf of your religion, and sometimes on behalf of your generation, that you may tender some level of apology. That, as simple as it sounds, is going to help people find reconnection, peace, and brotherhood in the journey we are on. And then the last part is what we call the retraction spot. We are very deliberate about the retraction spot because many people make the mistake of generalizing things about Nigeria. If a Yoruba person wronged you, it's either a Shegun that wronged you. It makes no sense for you to condemn the whole Yoruba race. If an Igbo person wronged you, it's maybe a Chima that wronged you. You have no right now to condemn the entire Igbo race. And so what we are saying at the retraction spot is take back that evil thing you've spoken about a tribe. Speak more definite and be more precise about who wronged you, who cheated you, or who did you wrong, rather than condemn an entire tribe because you had a bad experience with someone. And also, sometimes we speak negatively about Nigeria, and it makes no sense that the land you walk on, the air you breathe, where you eat food from, you speak negatively about it. No one in their sane mind will insult their father's land, will insult their mother's house. And so what we are hoping with this retraction is take back the negative things you have said about Nigeria and start saying things that are quite positive about Nigeria. On the average, this is what the board game contains, but you will get a full gist in the rule book. The rule book explains a little bit further and deeper about what makes up the National Cake board game.
Okay.
Are we progressing? Close. I shouldn't. Okay. Okay, yes, okay. So no problem. I can always open it. Well, I can always open it. Okay, no. Let me go ahead.
What are the components of the game?
Yes, there are a lot of things that make up National Cake. First, we have the board game. That is the board itself, where you have all the history, the events that makes up National Cake. Then you have the rule book. This is explicit and detailed explanation on how the rules of the games are, and then you can learn and even ask questions, and also provide a QR code for you to connect with National Kick, either the website and other things that comes with it. Then you have this, that's what I call the token. This is the 1914 token. There are 20 pieces. Anytime you have 1914, after your first entry point, you take each of these tokens. You will need it to cross the bridges. Then you have the 1960 tokens, and they also 20 pieces too. Again, anytime you have 1960 and already you have entered the game, the next time you repeat any 1960, you take one token, which is 1960. When you get to the bridge, you need to pay your way to be able to pass it. And then we have the spin pad. The personal spin pad is 4, and that is why only 4 people can play at a time. There are 4 different, each of them have a color code. This color code is what decides how you get what we call the race counter. Each color is according to the race counter. You have, for instance, this is spin pad for red. You also have a race counter for red. The same thing, you have an orange race counter. That's what you take this spin pad for. Then you have a green, and then you have a blue. The spin pad decides the pace and the movement on the board. That's actually what qualifies how the journey goes. Now, I think on the average, this is what makes up the components of the game. However, I may need to say this so that you understand. The game has 3 categories. The first category is race to win. What that means is that you just continue to race. You spin, the next person spin, and then you keep moving. Even though there are dates and there are events on the board, the key word is that you don't need to explain, except you find yourself in any of those important spots that I explained. The key word is that you're going through the entire process just so that you are the first person to finish. And why is that necessary? Because at that level, we know not everybody knows this, but we want you to find this very familiar enough just so that you may take more interest into it. That's level 1. Then we have the second level. The second level is called stop and explain. At this level, anytime you stop in a box, it is your duty to explain in 60 seconds the history or the event that occur in that box. So which means you need to know it. And that's why we expect that from the first one, when you are racing to win, you are beginning to have an idea of what the histories and the events are, and then you start learning so that if you find yourself in any box, you can explain. And then we have the third one, which is the most senior advanced one. It is called the massive ladder approach. Now, what that does is that for every step you take on the board game, you must explain every history, every event. It simply means you must understand what happens in the past, enough to connect it to what is happening in the future, and then enough again to know how best we can leverage on it to build a better tomorrow. Our confidence is that now that we have gamified what would have been perhaps 150 to 200 books of history and pages of events, we have reduced it into a game format where you can play with your family, play with your colleagues, and then peer-based learning can occur. We expect that as you do this, you begin to learn Nigeria one box and one story at a time. We have simplified the most complex aspect of Nigeria. You can't finish going through this and then you don't develop some level of identity and clarity about Nigeria. That will now help you make the best of decisions.